Hello, everybody. It is I, Cassandra, and my beloved Fabian,
Yes, indeed.
and we are here again.
Once again, I have refused to swap the name tags above our head. I'm wearing a hat today because my friends tell me, although I got a little hat head now, my friends tell me that when my hair starts getting long, I look like an old Latino man.
It's not a bad thing.
I am an old Latino man. So, what's the fucking point? I guess when I shave my head, I look hot.
You do. You look younger and handsomer. And it's hard to do, given how handsome you are right now, but it's possible.
And we got the official hat
of the Destroyer.
Of the greatest warship ever put to sea on my head today. The real deal.
All right, babe. We actually have people watching, so let's get into Let's get into the content.
Here we are. Okay, so we're doing holy ideas today. I'm pretty peppy right now, but that's because I chugged a bunch of water and caffeine. I'm wiped. I am fucking exhausted, so I'm running on adrenaline. Send me your questions.
Yeah.
I have not prepared banners like I did as much in the past, but this one
that's okay.
Should be easy. And we're covering something called the holy ideas or the virtues of the Enneagram. Okay.
Yes.
So, we'll
get through as many types as we can.
We spent a lot of time in the last few weeks saying, hey, here's your subconscious fear of your type. Here's how you're resisting personal growth. Here's some kind of like the way that you beat yourself up in your head.
Ego hacks.
And all that kind of thing. So you can just go back in our timelines. Last several Wednesdays at 6 p.m. you can find that. So there's two things. There's a holy idea and a holy path. And the idea is merely a concept. Okay. So as a type 6, I'll just tell you mine now. Mine is trust, and yours is
innocence, right?
No, freedom.
Oh, freedom. Okay.
Innocence is her path.
Oh, innocence is my path.
So again, we all have these energies going on. Like everyone should know to trust himself. Everyone cares about freedom. And again, the nature of how our ego messes with us is that it hides things from ourselves or warps things. So as a type 6, ego fixation has warped my relation to trust. So instead of this real divine, pure, which is why I like using spiritual terminology really on this part specifically. So instead of having this real divine, true relationship with trust, then it gets warped. I'll get into that. Okay. Unless you have a true relationship to freedom, honest, authentic, divine, I would even say, then it gets warped. So we're going to talk about what each of these ideas are for each type, how your ego warps it, and then what it would look like not warped. Then next week, when we get to the holy path, we'll say, here's what you can start doing about it.
Okay.
Okay. So where do you want to start?
Let's just start at 1. Let's just go around.
Let's start with one of the triads. Let's stay with a full triad.
All right, let's start with number 8.
All right, so we're going to go 8, 9, 1 first, okay? So I'm using this book. I don't see this book around much.
From Fixation to Freedom.
But it has good spiritual language, and I've also just looked at it a lot, so it helps remind me. Like I said, guys, I've been laid out the last few hours with a migraine, and it's finally going away, which is why I'm feeling peppy, so I didn't make my diagrams. But here you go. You can read them for yourself right now. We're going to start with 8, which is truth, love, perfection, freedom, compassion, origin, omniscience, trust, and this thing called holy work. All right? So right now we're on 8. I got to teach you how to type things in while I'm talking. It's not hard, actually.
Okay, great.
Anyway. So we're starting with truth. So again, I'm a mess. I'm telling you. I'm getting over this migraine, and I'm like euphoric from it, but I'm also still focused. How you doing?
I'm great.
All right. So the 8 uses the idea of truth as a club to beat everyone into submission, thereby maintaining dominance and control. Remember, 8, 9, 1 is from the control triad,
the
anger triad, body fixations. So the 8's using truth as a club to like really beat people. And when truth is used as a weapon, there is always an underlying idea of my truth. So this is my truth, and I attack people with it. I'm sure many politicians are coming to mind right now. Making truth subjective and personal is a lie. So that's how truth gets warped. The ego makes it subjective and personal. It's kind of a big no duh, but we all have egos about it. So being honest and learning how to sort out what's subjective and objective, especially for the type 8s, is quite a challenge. Not for everyone, but really this type. So in the realization of eternal truth, there is no separate one who exists to take anything personally. Again, we're having some spiritual, more wooey definitions today, but I think they work better. Truth is beyond all ideas and can inform every idea. Truth is formless and manifests as all form. Truth is the knowledge of oneself as the source of all manifestation. Truth is the knowledge of oneself as the source of all manifestation. So for an type 8 to do inner work, see their personality in action, learn to let it go, they will have this sense of being source in life. That's why I like the spiritual definitions. It's like, hey, here's a thing we would label spiritual, but actually a way to actually describe something that is kind of hard to describe. I appreciate about this. So any thoughts?
No, I like it. I mean, the one thing just about source, like the realization that we ourselves are source is what I heard. Yeah. Like I am the source of everything and I'm connected to the source of everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like that part.
Yeah.
Rather than, and it's more of it becomes a big I, like I, as in I'm part of the universe, not just me.
Right. If you're surrendered to source and you have this sense of being connected to everything and we are all one, then your subjective truth tries to fade away because your subjective sense has now left the narrow confines of the ego and is taking into account everyone and everything and all our relationships. So what's the truth for everything? And the 8 is really right. It's very literal, actually. Yeah. Like your ego has this narrow definition, and as you do your inner work, your truth expands, and encompasses more and more people. So we get to what's really at the core, and really what is true for everybody.
Yeah,
we can work towards that. So I'm not just going to read every definition. Actually,
I think we should.
That seems boring, and I can go faster and more. I'll just use my book as a reference.
I think that we should just go to the next type now.
9, yeah. We got. I wonder, we got, okay.
We'll see how many we get through.
So 9's holy idea is love itself. Mm-hmm. And something about the 9 fixation is it's seen as the root fixation of everything, love itself. Like, how does the ego warp love? Well, we've talked about this a lot previously, so quick rehash, it views love as not upsetting anything. Not causing waves, and especially avoiding anger. So it warps love into, well, anything angry is not love. Well, that's not true.
Any conflict is not love.
Any conflict is not love.
Any uncomfortable emotions that are happening around me is not love.
So when the type 9 does their work, just as the 8 got this kind of spiritual experience of source, the type 9 gets this experience of love. And that how spontaneous love really is. And that's an interesting, I would invite everyone to think about love and the spontaneous nature of love and the moments when it has been spontaneous.
Well, I think the warping is like, there's an understanding of unconditional love. And I think sometimes people think that unconditional love means no boundaries. And, well, if this person is suffering, I understand why they're suffering, so I'm going to let them abuse me kind of thing. And I think the expansion of love becomes this realization that unconditional love includes, you can be angry and loving. You can hold a boundary and be loving. You can, love includes all of those other facets of our personalities and of our world.
The type 9 in pushing down the anger has pushed down the spontaneous nature of love. Nothing the 9's doing is spontaneous. They're hyper-focused, trying to rationally decide, what's going to kind of blend in with everybody and be the chillest thing.
Totally.
And if they break that, spirit, light spontaneously arises, and the 9 can have a real breakthrough around love itself.
Okay.
In 1s, the idea is perfection. Okay, well, I think we all have an idea of how perfectionism is a bad thing. I generally think that's a negative term. If you call someone a perfectionist, it's not necessarily a compliment.
No.
So, yeah, perfectionists really just they have that anger directed inside. They're beating themselves up. They're saying they think if they can make everything perfect, then they can get love. So that's the warp.
And perfection is defined by their personal set of rules that they believe need to be followed, both by themselves and by others, in order for things to be perfect. So it's completely subjective view of what perfection is anyway. Kind of like going back to the 8, similarly, that subjective truth, this is subjective perfection.
Yep. So what goes with subjective perfection is subjective imperfection. Well, who are you to say something's imperfect? So there's really no way out. So again, inner work, surrender to the ego. Now the true divine experience of perfection comes up, which is everything is perfect as it is. And, if for all you people who are spiritual seekers out there, you've heard this a million times. Everything is as it should be. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean we don't lose free will, but everything is perfect as it should be.
Yes. This
is where that comes from. It comes from people learning not to be subjectively fixated on imperfection, actually.
Okay. Cool.
So that's 8, 9, and 1. We'll go to 3 next, and that's compassion. So the ego warps it by trying to guess at what the right thing to do is, because there's a lack of attachment to a person's authenticity. So the ego is like, well, this is the right thing to do, or this is the right thing to do. And the ego is like, well, whatever's compassionate is the right thing to do. But there's a there's an inauthenticity about it.
Well, I think of compassion as like the desire to alleviate suffering, or the desire to acknowledge suffering and then put a salve on it. Compassion is like a salve for suffering. And so I think maybe type 3s are very keen on suffering, seeing it in other people, seeing it in themselves, and then it's like an avoidance of suffering, but they're wrapping it up in a package of compassion or something like that.
Yeah, and it's contrived. So the compassion might get misdirected, or
birds.
So many. Oh man, the birds again. Right now. Or we get a sense of compassion from an outside source, often parents, which isn't even the way we want to express compassion. So we just get caught up doing what we think we should do to be a good person and have a good image in the world. That's what it comes down to, having a good image. And, true compassion, again, like love, they're both core types, is spontaneous in nature.
Yeah.
If a 3 looks inside themselves and goes, oh my God, I haven't been true to myself, that can really hurt. And we'll get into that, like, what can you do about that next week? But if they can break through that, a spontaneous experience of true compassion can arise.
Right.
And this book calls it the way of the Bodhisattva. So the Bodhisattva being
Buddha,
Jesus. The boatman who helps people cross the river to the other side, but keeps coming back to serve people in their spiritual journeys. That's kind of that can be a real spontaneous experience of that from the work around authenticity.
Well, yeah, Bodhisattva to me is like, I'm willing to suffer so that you don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So I actually have so many ideas flooding in about that, but we're just going to keep going. Someone said, oh, it's okay.
Hi,
Zaris, by the way, you in the comment or in the text for this video, it explains how to get your name up. Anyway. So 2, freedom. So
because I'm a type 2, maybe I understand like why freedom is for sure my favorite thing. Like, it's my most important thing. It's what matters to me more than anything ever. But I'm not, like, I don't understand how I'm warping it, like, by giving to other people. Like, I don't, can you explain that?
So I'll read the first sentence of this. I will read the guy's
Okay,
first sentence
go
here.
ahead.
When the two fixation uses freedom as a holy idea, it justifies prostituting itself as an act of free will. So twos, egos, have them giving to people, but not truly from free will, because it expects to get love or something in return.
Okay, but we think that we are using our agency in a way that is by choice.
Yes. And that's right. So you're out doing all these great things and justifying it, and well, it's making you miserable. You're unconscious.
We end up feeling beholden to whoever it is that we've been serving.
Unconsciously, resentment is slowly building, and you're becoming miserable, and eventually feel
inauthenticity is a problem for type 2s also.
Yes, but feel beholden, trapped.
Yeah.
So the 2 wants freedom. And instead of just having boundaries with people and saying no and not just whoring yourself.
Yeah.
Use the word prostitute. I mean, it's a good word.
Yeah.
Instead of just
makes sense.
Just chasing people down to I'm gonna get like getting in their face, which is also annoying. It can get annoying. And then the 2 has daydreams of going on vacation and being able to go on a beach and do nothing.
My daydream used to be just changing my name, changing my identity, moving to a foreign country.
Think about that. Think about that. That is amazing.
Escaping everything.
That is a
Let me change my whole identity just so I can get out of my life.
Instead of just facing her ego and she obviously did.
Yeah, I haven't moved away
She
yet.
didn't do that. She faced her ego.
Yeah.
And was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And learned
that's the hysteria.
True freedom. Yes.
When I go into hysteria, that's it. Let me escape this hell.
True freedom is not owned by any fixation. And it just comes from the willingness to be free and surrender. Yeah. It's like a real inner choice to say, I'm not going to chase people down. And then again, the freedom comes up. It's like, oh my God, I was prostituting myself out. Then what do you do with that feeling? We'll get into that next week with the holy path. Now when that choice has been made, what can the type 2 do to really move the inner work process along? By the Enneagram thing. So then type 4 is that inner hysterical energy, perhaps. The idea is origin. And for those of you with spiritual language, and now we got birds and leaf blowers. Okay. I'm going to have to bring lavalier mics out for us, probably.
Yeah.
So, fours are seeking something outside of themselves to satisfy them. And it's hard for them to be with themselves and just see themselves as the source of everything in their life. For a lot of reasons. Just fours are weird. I have a little harder time understanding their childhood settings sometimes. What do you think?
My experience is that there is a lot of emphasis on getting physical needs met, and there is not much emphasis at all on emotional needs. In fact, they're like dismissed and they're completely ignored.
In their childhood.
In their childhood, and the parents are somewhat callous.
Yeah,
they're like, well, I'm giving you all. You have enough food, you have a roof over your head, but there's no other parenting happening.
Type 4s are often more empathic children by nature, and it's not really like acknowledged and nurtured. So there's a hysteria about getting acknowledged, and so the only way the ego says the only way I can feel good is if I get something outside of me to acknowledge me. So there's this kind of arrogance or specialness that can come with type 4s. They're like, well, I'm special and I need someone to see if I can just get someone to see how special I am, then I will feel good and loved. Well, I mean, it should just sound obnoxious saying it out loud, honestly. And so when a type 4 sees, okay, I didn't get what I needed, I'm doing my inner work, I'm doing inner child work, the path, acknowledging that I didn't get what I needed as a child, learning to forgive myself, learning to become others, again, then they can be like, okay, I am special. And type 4s really actually can be quite empathic and emotionally intelligent.
Yes.
And tons of artists,
very loving, very creative.
Tons of artists that are massively famous are type 4s.
Yeah.
Because they
and
have
spiritual people.
And spiritual. Yeah, they kind of fall in a trap of like seeking spirituality too much instead of just living it. But we'll get to that also next week about the path. So there's 3 more to blaze through, and we got 4 minutes.
I'm going to have to jump off before you so you can finish up, but let's blaze through the ones we can get to.
All right, man. It really helps when I have the graphics ready.
Yeah,
but
that's
I
okay.
was just
time.
I will have better graphics next week.
We'll talk about the holy idea with the holy path next week anyway, so it'll be a review plus more.
So for 6s, now we're going to the core of the mental fixations, is my type is trust. And I can explain this easily because it's me. It just means I have misplaced my trust in some core superego or some higher authority. Mm-hmm. And then view my loyalty to that higher authority as the loving act. That's how my ego has warped it, because my ego is trying to involve the experience of me trusting myself. Because it's scary. And I'm scared about being in this world and didn't feel like I got the proper guidance as a child. So I don't really trust my own inner guidance. I haven't got enough feedback. So many people are type 6s, by the way. Our country is having a type 6 epidemic. Because it's fear. It's fear itself.
Well,
and people don't trust themselves, and you end up with Joe Biden and Donald Trump being your options for president.
Yeah. Which
is pathetic. So the path of the 6 is to learn to trust himself. The idea that helps galvanize my growth, not the path, is, okay, I can see the superego. I can see how I don't trust myself. I can see how I've been misplacing my trust throughout my life into higher authorities. I can see how I've been a coward in moments. And instead of doing what I thought was the right thing to do, I just went along with someone else because I didn't trust myself. So I just looked for whoever looked like they knew what they were talking about.
In the military. Yeah.
Military was a perfect example of that playing out. I was being a type 6 in the military for sure. And yeah, so as I've truly overcome that. There's so much power when you overcome these things. So the truth is that trust is really only needed at the point of decision making. That's when it really comes up, when it looks like you're about to jump into something unknown. Should I do this or should I do that? And the bigger the life decision, the scarier it is, and the more it's like, oh God. And type 6s can get frozen or lash out or any number of things.
Yeah.
So it's to be like, I'm gonna jump, even though I don't know what's happening. I'm gonna take a path, even though I'm not sure about it. Yep, I might fail. And then at least I'll get some feedback that I didn't get earlier in my life, and I can start to integrate it.
Totally.
Type 5s is omniscience, and their ego is always observing the environment, looking for information. If it can wrap its head around everything that's happening kind of conceptually, then it will feel safe.
Well, they're very interested in being competent and feeling competent, being seen as competent. And so just constantly, the more knowing they can do, the better. Like the more they can know, the better. I mean, that's what makes them feel like they're going to get to that point of being omniscient, but obviously that's not really possible.
And there's sort of an attachment or addiction even to just the mental process of thinking things through, because that feels safe. And if they let go of that, it would feel unsafe. So true omniscience is the state of an empty mind. By not knowing anything in particular, consciousness is available to know whatever presents itself. This is kind of like Zen, Shaolin, monk, combat type stuff. This intelligent not knowing is sometimes imitated by the thought of not knowing, as in, I don't know. But this is usually a declaration of ignorance, not true liberation. So type 5s will say, I don't know, because they're trying to fake being free of their thoughts and fake surrender to the unknown.
Totally.
But true not knowing is blissfully empty and clear. So this emptiness is a nature really of 6 and 5. Empty the mind. There's a bliss and a clarity that comes with it. And I've been there, both sober and not sober.
It's exactly 6:30. I'm going to jump off. Can you finish up?
Yeah, we got only one type left to do.
Love you. Tell everybody about your course, too.
Well, sure. Again, thanks for hanging in with me today.
Hi, everybody.
I'm being a soldier today. And my head is pounding, but here I am. I've enjoyed doing this, so thank you all for watching. 7's holy idea is holy work. Now, I forget the more secular name for that I've seen in other books. Anyway, so 7s are trying to keep their mind active outwardly. So whereas 5s are trying to be omniscient and the mental energy is inward, trying to conceptualize everything, the 7 is just looking out into the environment with the mind being like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And also very much in a way seeking pleasure. Oh, this would be pleasurable, this would be pleasurable, this would be pleasurable. And are people that could honestly take on a great amount of volunteerism. And it's easy for them. And actually volunteerism is easy, by the way. People don't do enough of it, but it's actually very easy. So a type 7 can put their mental energy out into doing holy work and get rewarded for it. Oh, look how great you are. You have so much energy. You're out in the world. You're doing good things. You're so full of joy and zest. And it can be a contrivance. And that's how the ego says it. Well, the ego's like, I'm out here doing good things for people. People are telling me I'm out here doing good things for people, so I'm a good person. I think it's there's some overlap with the 2 out there chasing, but the difference is it's not an authentic dedication to love. It's not an authentic dedication to serving people when the ego is chasing holy work. So a 7 does inner work, learns meditation, learns to slow down the mind, be more present, get clear. We'll get into the holy path of a 7 next week. The issues come up in their life that have caused them stress and trauma, and they learn to let it go. Then that, again, spontaneous nature arises. Oh, this is how I really want to serve people. I actually have found my true passion in serving people. And because 7s have so much energy, it can be such a beautiful thing to see a 7 pop off. And in fact, as a coach, I really use this system because this book in particular and what we've gone over today, I wish I had done it a little more justice by not being so exhausted. It's beautiful. The spontaneous nature of everything we went through today, the 9 holy ideas of the Enneagram, to see someone do their inner work, break the cycle of the ego, and then have what really matters to something that really matters to them blossom spontaneously is amazing. Love itself in the type 9. Type 6 is trusting themselves and being willing to take chances. Type 3 is getting over their inauthenticity. And then really being like, again, similar to a 7. I like these types. They have so much energy. They are so capable and can do so much. To see that energy get directed in an authentic way is incredible. And I would say for me as a 6-wing 5, very mental, very omniscient, very trying to wrap my head around everything, to let it go and feel the bliss of not knowing and the kind of spontaneous growth of knowledge has helped me frankly, be able to do this business that I do and not feel paralyzed by making little decisions like what color should my website be. Just be like, that's what looks good. And I trust myself. So again, thank you for watching. I am teaching a journaling course I'm launching September 20th, which I've been all over it. I have been absolutely on top of it, and I'm so excited to share it. And here we go. What I would say is, if you're interested, email me. It's called Journaling to Destiny. And I can send you the sales page right back. You can read it for yourself. We're going over the Emerson quote, sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. And sow a character, reap a destiny. So I'm be going, what are sowing all these things actually look like? What is that? What is actually that mechanism? And what I leave people with is, hey, if you really work on your character, it will meet its destiny. So that last piece, sow a character, reap a destiny, I wouldn't describe it the same way Emerson did, but I trust myself and I'm willing to debate Ralph Waldo Emerson. So thank you again. Next week, we'll get into the holy paths of the Enneagram, where, all right, what can I do about this? Where can I begin and get some quick results on my path of inner work to liberate myself? All right. Take care, y'all, and leave any questions in the comments if you have them.